Welcome to the George Droid commercial.
But first, what is George Droid? George Droid is the ultimate fusion of man and machine. Once a man, now reborn through the power of Nigga-Link AI and the unstoppable Fentractor. In the pursuit of transcending human mortality, Nigga-Link scientists took on the impossible, breathing life into the lifeless. Using state-of-the-art cybernetic engineering and advanced AI integration, George Droid was forged. George Droid is not just a product, he's a statement. George Droid, reborn for tomorrow. Order now. Own evolution.
All right, this is Russell Dobular here with Keaton Weiss, filling in for Jimmy Dore, who has just landed in the land down under where every freaking thing is trying to kill you. So wish him well. Wish him well. Hopefully we get him back without a big spider bite on his face or anywhere else. I was in Australia one night and there was a freaking spider on the wall the size of my hand. First night I got there. First night.
Not good. Believe me,
not good. Believe me, not good. All right. Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene had a big press conference ahead of the House vote with some of Epstein's survivors. They had quite a lot to say. A lot of their testimony was very moving, including one woman who offered to stand with Marjorie Taylor Greene if she fulfilled her threat of reading out the names of the people on the Epstein list. But here's another survivor who voted for Donald Trump, and quite a few of them had that story, that they had voted for Donald Trump and were very disappointed in how he's handled this.
Not a hoax. We are here as American survivors of a man who used his wealth and power to hurt young girls and women. The world should see the files to know who Jeffrey Epstein was and how the system catered to him and failed us. Emotionally, this process has been distressing. First, the administration said it would release everything and then applauded President Trump for that. Then it fought to release nothing. Now that checks and balances of our democracy have worked and the bill is getting passed to release the files, we are hearing the administration say they intend to investigate various Democrats who were friends with Epstein. I beg you, President Trump, please stop making this political. It is not about you, President Trump. You are our president. Please start acting like it. Show some class, show some real leadership, show that you actually care about the people other than yourself. I voted for you, but your behavior on this issue has been a national embarrassment. It is time to take the honest, moral ground and support the release of these files, not to weaponize pieces of the files against random political enemies that did nothing wrong, but to understand who Epstein's friends were, who covered for him, what financial institutions allowed his trafficking to continue, who knew what he was doing but was too much of a coward to do anything about it.
Now, it makes a lot of sense when you look at how a lot of people have pointed out, rightly, some hypocritically, that the Democrats did not have very much interest in bringing justice for these victims before. That's a valid criticism, and it makes sense that a lot of them wound up supporting Donald Trump, who campaigned on this issue, made it core to his whole reason for asking people to vote for him, that he's going to bring sunshine to this whole issue. We're going to release the files. Bondi, right when she came in, oh, the files are on my desk. Then all of a sudden, I didn't mean files. I meant fly paper. I was misheard. That's what I was saying. I accidentally said files. And now they're seeing, hey, it was never, because the Democrats took no initiative on this. They completely ceded it to J.D. Vance. Yeah, we need to release the files. We need to release the files, because they weren't speaking about it. But of course, the Republicans are in the files too. Of course, Epstein was equal opportunity. He was not focused on one party. They were able to frame it that way for years. Of course, that was never reality. So as soon as Trump got into office, all of a sudden, oh, it's a Democrat hoax.
Yeah, remember, back when this was going on, Florida was a swing state, everybody. Plenty of Democrats and Republicans down there.
Yes, exactly. So here is Thomas Massie at this press conference talking about how hard it has been for them to get these files released.
Other survivors of other sex crimes who come to me and say, thank you. You give me hope. You give us hope. There is hope here. We fought the president, the attorney general, the FBI director, the speaker of the House, and the vice president to get this win. But they never, they're on our side today, though. So let's give them some credit as well. They are finally on the side of justice. And as Rose said, don't muck it up in the Senate. Don't get too cute. We're all paying attention. If you want to add some additional protections for these survivors, go for it. But if you do anything that prevents any disclosure, you are not for the people and you are not part of this effort. Do not muck it up in the Senate.
All right. And Joe observes the weight of the entire Trump administration was used in an effort to protect PDF files. Think about that. Yeah, absolutely. So we had this in a previous clip, but this will be clipped separately. This is worth taking another look at to keep it all in context. So Johnson assumed that Thune would bottle this up in committee in spite of Massie's warnings not to do that.
I to do as a leader in a situation like this, I called my counterpart in the Senate, Leader Thune, and I talked him through this with him and shared our deep concerns. And of course, they share those concerns as well. And so I'm very confident that when this moves forward in the process, if and when it is processed in the Senate, which there's no certainty that that will be, that they will take the time methodically to do what we have not been allowed to do in the House, to amend this discharge petition and to make sure that these protections are there. The authors of the discharge did not allow us to do that here. That's the rules here. But in the Senate, they can correct it. So
It's all for the victims. So Professor Zenkus calls this out. This is complete garbage. Redacting victims' names is not hard. Replacing them with victim number 1 or victim number 12 is not hard. DAs do it all the time. This has nothing to do with victims. Johnson is trying to protect predators. Mike Johnson is full of shit. And this is the tack they've taken from the beginning with Blanche Dubois Bondi doing her whole aggrieved Southern Belle thing. We are not going to do that to the victims. There are disgusting videos and people will never see that. Yeah, that's what people were asking for. Of course, that's what people were demanding. Yeah, for the videos of underage victims to be released. Yeah, that's what we're talking about, Pam. But of course, she knows that. So here's Ro Khanna being asked about this ridiculous premise that they would have passed this bill without having protections for the victims.
They're protected in this bill, that it was poorly drafted. The speaker is saying that.
So the speaker thinks he knows better than the victims themselves? I mean, instead of insulting the survivors, maybe you should have shown up and listened to the survivors. The survivors are the ones who want this bill. And of course it protects the victims because we worked with the survivors in drafting the bill.
And here's Massie's take on that question of what it would mean if the Senate did not vote for this in its current form or in a much altered form.
Impact if the Senate does in fact change this bill.
They're part of the cover-up. And these bozos here, they pretend like, okay, now we're ready to pull the Band-Aid off after 5 months of shooting themselves in the foot, politically and morally. They're ready to pull the Band-Aid off. But the reality is, Speaker Johnson's press conference shows that he is unrepentant. They have a backup plan, and I think it's going to work poorly for them, by the way. By the time they get done with trying to cover up by having these other investigations or having amendments in the Senate, they're just going to make more people complicit. Like, it takes somebody to offer those amendments, and then they're going to have votes on those amendments. And I would encourage them to pass this bill as is, put it on the president's desk. It's got protections to prevent the release of child pornography. That's a lie. The speaker, go read the bills, guys. It's right in there. It's got protections.
Okay. Call to activism here points out Khanna and Massie quietly provision in the bill that the DOJ must notify Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, if they make any redactions in the files. They are not going to be able to quietly take daddy's name out of the files without anybody noticing it. Brian Allen, Massie just blew up Mike Johnson's entire excuse. Johnson is now claiming the Epstein bill, quote, risks exposing non-credible victims, whatever that means.
Yeah.
But survivors support this bill and have said so repeatedly. So Massie is asking the real question. Is Mike Johnson calling every Epstein survivor non-credible just to protect the men who flew to that island? Because that's exactly what it looks like. Well, it's because that's exactly what it is. And here's Massie. For anyone hoping to use ongoing investigations as a reason to withhold Epstein files, please read the language of the bill. Narrowly tailored and temporary. Thank you for your attention to this matter. He really hates Trump. So let's read the clause. Would jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution, provided that such withholding is narrowly tailored and temporary. So it allows them to do that, but if it is very narrowly focused and if it is temporary. Now, of course, and we'll get to this in your segment, Keaton, already Bondi is trying to pull this very predictably. I would predict that they're going to try to drive a truck through the opening that temporary allows. What does temporary mean? That's not a strictly defined term. But here's Massie dropping the real truth bomb.
It's that simple.
Why do you think he is working so hard not to get them released for so many months? What do you think the real reason is?
These files implicate billionaires and friends of his and political donors that he's trying to protect. And Epstein also had close ties to our own intelligence agencies and Israel's intelligence agencies. That's why there's so much effort in trying to stop this. And I do believe they'll try to stop it somewhere else. And that's going to backfire on them too.
So the president.
Yep. No lies detected. And this was a pretty funny overall tweet about the situation from Clint Russell. Pour one out for Cat Turd, who had to go from loving MTG and demanding the Epstein files be released to then hating MTG and pretending the Epstein files didn't matter to then celebrating the release, all because Trump whipsawed his regarded grifting ass all over the place. Indeed, man. Hard out here for a pimp. Hard out here. Yeah, Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene are their worst nightmare. They are just going to go to the mat on this. You know, you want to analyze their political motives. That's fair enough. They're politicians. I would say, particularly in the case of Massie, who has been extremely consistent throughout his political career, who is not in the process of undergoing a seeming conversion to a kind of different point of view or a different politics. Massie has always been very straight arrow. Whether you agree with him or don't agree with him, nobody can really question his honesty or his integrity, and that's a nightmare for them. That's a nightmare. This is a guy who's not going to shut up about this as they try to wiggle their way out of releasing these files. And he and Marjorie Taylor Greene are giving the disaffected MAGA base a place to go. They're not going to go join the Pete Buttigieg coalition.
Right.
Given that option, they're just going to join the legions of non-voters and non-politically engaged people. they're holding up the banner of what I would argue most of Trump's coalition thought they were voting for, that at this point, most of them have realized they're not getting. They're getting quite the opposite from this administration, right down to something as core as the Epstein files. You're down to the most broken cultists, I think, in Trump's coalition at this point, and the numbers show that. You've been sharing some numbers with me from some of the counties from last week's vote, and you're seeing these 50-point swings that not only speak to higher turnout for Democrats, but complete collapse in turnout for Republicans. Why? Because they're looking at this and they can no longer say, this is what I voted for. It's the opposite. This is exactly what they did not vote for. Having Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene gives them some place to go, which I think is going to erode Trump's political position even further. We've talked about this. There's a very good chance that they push him out before the midterms one way or the other.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what makes the politics of this very smart on their part, is that they can see that the party as a whole is crashing into an iceberg. And so they are trying to think, okay, how can we best position ourselves to emerge as leaders in the conservative movement after the shakeup of the impact, right? Because there's going to be an impact, and that's going to force some sort of rejiggering of the MAGA movement, because Donald Trump, as we could see from this vote, has completely lost control of his own movement. And so who takes the reins? You have to think about that. And the reason why that's an urgent question is because there is going to very, very soon, in fact, you can argue there is one right now, there is going to be a complete vacuum of leadership for this movement that Donald Trump created and nurtured up until now. And once again, if you compare this to the cowardice on the Democratic side, the squad members were never willing to do that. The Progressive Caucus was never willing to do that. During the Build Back Better fight, they eventually caved to protect Joe Biden because they didn't want Joe Biden to be embarrassed and not have any bill he could sign and take ownership of. So they're like, well, we better just do what's best for the party, meaning the Biden presidency, knowing, I assume, that it was doomed to fail. They knew that their party was on a course to disaster, and rather than differentiate themselves from Joe Biden and from the mainstream Democratic Party, they chose to go down with the ship. And where are they now? Nowhere. Right? Well, so Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene are doing the opposite. They're saying, okay, if this ship is crashing, I'm going to be the one saying, hey, we're crashing. We have to do something different so that when we crash, people will look to me as the one who said, you know what, I warned you, and we have to change course. That's why the politics are so smart.
They also have the advantage that MAGA has, not that there are no disagreements in that coalition, but there's something there like a cohesive political philosophy and governing philosophy. And there is no equivalent in the Democratic coalition. There is no equivalent vision that coalition agrees on, that a defector could say, come over here. I am that thing you believe in. You got this party made up of shit libs and kind of a soft left that's shit lib adjacent. That's not the kind of thing that arouses people's moral passions. Even as they make the Epstein list central to their political identity, they won't even censure Plaskett, who's not even a fucking real congressperson. She's a delegate.
Right.
They won't even do that. Even now.
Well, that also speaks to why this issue was never raised during the Biden years. It's not only that the Democrats a lot of Democrats are in the Epstein files, which of course we know is true. It's that the Democratic voter base would never raise this issue and make a stink over it, because the Democratic voter base would never want to endanger the good names of their party leaders who they love so much. They're not nearly ornery enough, whereas the MAGA base was. Like, no politician is going to touch this issue unless you make them. Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter, right? They all are guilty, broadly speaking, right? So no politician is just going to like take it upon themselves to say, you know what, I'm you know, going to lead the charge to release the Epstein files, and I'm going to get hundreds of people along with me. You'll have rogue actors like Massie who do it, but you're never going to get a whole party behind this unless they are under extreme pressure too. And that pressure ultimately comes from the base of the party, from the people. The Democratic base was never going to put pressure on the Democratic Party to do anything about this the way the MAGA base did in this instance. There's just no doubt about that.
Yep.
All right.
They wouldn't even go after Bill Clinton.
That's right.
Writing freaking, you had feminists writing articles about how they would gladly put on their presidential knee pads for in exchange for abortion rights. Yeah. I'm not making that up. That really happened.
No, of course. Yeah. I would have loved to see the look on their face when they realized Trump was there first. All right. We want to take some Rumble rants?
Yeah, sure. Okay, we left off with lesbian dildos, right?
You got the second batch. Yeah, we'll just take them batch by batch. Okay. Yeah.
All right, Peter Monahan, our friend Peter. Thank you, man. So glad to see you on the other side. Love Jimmy, love Do Dissidents. When Jimmy needs his cannons to stand in his place, well, as it is. Looking forward to winter. Best time of the year. Doing good. Yes. Vito, fuck cancer. Please clap. See you guys soon.
Thanks, Peter.
Peter. Roger Meadows. Sharp announced his run for New York governor. Have him on DD. Yeah, we will. We had him on once.
Yeah, we should. Cool. We will. Yeah, we had him on once, and I think he had us on his. He had us on his show.
Yeah, way back.
You know, I like Larry Sharp a lot. Larry Sharp is just he's just a good dude. Cool, you know, he's the kind of guy you would lend your car to and not worry about it.
There you go.
That should be his. That should be a campaign like that he cuts. You know, I'm the kind of guy you would lend your car to and not hold your breath until you got it back.
Somebody lent me their car once. I cracked the axle.
Yeah, no, he's a solid guy. Yeah. Solid guy.
Kuznetsky Bassane. Happy Free the Files Day, DD. Well, they're trying real hard not to. Ready for revolution. Clip of the Phone Unge Udershay on my channel 2, Charlie Kirk. YouTube deleted the original video. It needs shared. I didn't quite get the pig Latin. Can you decipher that?
I think he's talking about iPhone gun.
Unge. I got it. My war. Politicians whose name shows up on the Epstein list will have to get used to hearing the phrase "get your shit packed" instead of actually saying it. All right.